We are joined, man himself, Andrii Telizhenko. Andrei is a whistleblower, former diplomat from Ukraine. How you doing, Andrei? You doing okay today?
But there, onto Russia, when there's Russia, things like that don't happen as much as they happen in the United States. And that in Ukraine, they destroyed my country, Ukraine, by basically using it as a proxy and pushing the aggression. What is happening with the neocons and liberals and whatever, and all this
Mhm.
hatred in America towards Ukraine. And with Ukraine right now, it's a hatred. Everybody hates within Ukraine. Everybody hates each other. Like there's hatred towards everybody: Russia, Belarus, Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Georgia. Just because they have their points of view, even America, they hate America now because they're not giving them enough money. So like this is what the reality has become.
I guess my
Sorry, I
thing
just
is,
wanted
the thing is,
I wanted to say something on this
no,
overall. I
you
don't know
don't
if I said it
apologize.
right.
No, 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 dude, you're here to give your take. That's what I want. Um, do you think that people who say stuff like black people were better off in slavery, or who say stuff like black women are dumb, who trash immigrants, do you think that people with a huge public platform that says stuff like that on any level creates that division?
It adds, and it basically it not just adds, it cements the division in the reality. It cements the division, like the 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 household of the division from within. So yes, and all, but depends also on the immigration stuff. It depends on what, who, and how, because like as I said, America is a land of immigrants. My
Right.
parents live in the United States. They went through a process of getting their green card, through a hard process. My mom is paying taxes 40%. Like I'm not in America. Like she has to out of her salary. She's working day and night uh, in the company, but she is paying a lot of taxes. She's paying for a household. She's paying to to America.
Mhm.
And my dad is retired, but he's getting his pension in Ukraine. He's not taking anything from the United States. Like he's not
Yeah.
even legally working. He's helping the church. So basically, uh, I cannot guarantee them because I'm sanctioned, but overall, they're there legally. I was there also legally when I was a student. When I came there, I had to basically, even though I had a diplomatic visa, when I came first to the United States, I had to change it to a student visa, even though I had a diplomatic visa, diplomatic passport, immunity, blah, 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 because my dad was working in the embassy at the time in Washington. I had to go to the process and legally become a student and stay there. So we go all through that. So there's we're talking about black people, Hispanics people, any other people, white, colored, everything. That's race. That is basically who we are. And immigration, that is a separate thing. Depends on what. Like it doesn't have to be. Even if you came from Ukraine or Russia or China or Mexico or Canada, if you came illegally to a country, the United States or any other country, you broke the law. So there's a basically we should not put those things together. I think it's separate. It's like
Mhm.
milk and fish. You don't mix milk and fish. It's going to be a bad outcome.
Oh, I see what you mean. Look, I do make a distinction, right? Like, look, for me, immigration is not my issue. I don't entirely care about it. If I'm being bluntly honest with you, I care about it in the context of the way we treat human beings, especially when we're deporting people. And it's like, well, if we weren't setting fires in their countries, maybe they wouldn't necessarily come in that way. Like, meaning we can't have it both ways. We can't
It
have
is.
this kind of intense pressure on this notion of immigration where they're being demagogued. And the thought is, okay, how could we treat these people as hard and worse and miserable as possible while simultaneously doing things in their countries? I mean, Hernandez in Honduras, for example, where they took out Zelaya in his pajamas. Hillary Clinton brags about it in a book. And the guy who they put in ends up becoming a narco lord, drug lord, who they effectively prosecuted in New York. Ecuador is another really good example. The pressure that was being put on Ecuador, especially after Correa left Ecuador over the Julian Assange issue. Like these things set fires in other people's countries. Bolivia is another good example where Evo Morales was taken out by a bunch of fascists in that country. I don't know, man. We set fires, but I understand your point that there's a distinction between somebody who came here legally versus somebody who came here illegally. Are those Christian values to say those things about Black people as racists, to say those things about immigrants and the way that they're treated, like, or to back a genocide that's taking place in Israel? To me, these are not Christian values.
They're different, and the problem is they were being put together. The genocide being done in Palestine and Gaza, it's separate and it should not be there. I hear support even Tucker Carlson on this one talks about we have to support Israel with Ted Cruz because it's written in the Bible.
Right.
It's not written in the Bible to support the country Israel. It's written in the Bible that there's that land that you have to support, and on that land, it's not only the Jewish people who are living there. There's also the Palestinians, and the interesting thing is, the Palestinians who lived there afterwards were the ones who saved the Christ's clothes. They saved the history, and they saved parts of the cross, which were Jesus Christ was crucified. The Palestinians did that. They saved that. And we should protect that land where people live on. That's what's said in the Bible. So that's a different thing. Racism, there should not be racism in America or anywhere else, because it's not. People are all the same. We have the same blood. We have the same chromosomes. It comes back to the same thing. So here,
Andrii,
I fully agree. Yeah,
that's my point about Kirk. Like, it's almost like these things are. It's amazing to me how people who call themselves Christians don't act like Christians, and they use it almost as, virtue signaling for some kind of thing. It's like we can ignore all of this stuff that we don't particularly like about Christianity, but I'm going to claim to be a Christian. Like, I recoil at that when people do stuff like that. I mean, I grew up in the church. Most of the people in the church effectively behaved in the exact same way. So,
there's
but
a
I want
lot
you
of
also.
people. There's a lot of people who go to church in Ukraine, and they believe killing Russians and then killing people in Donbass and going after the church, our church, with a 1,000-year history, it's okay. And they believe they're good Christians. So there's a lot of Christianity. It's also who you are from within, what you do in your actions from within. As I said, I supported what Charlie Kirk said about Christianity and how he talked about it in a way that it was understandable to people. Maybe it did change some people's minds. I said, did not support his view on Israel and Gaza because it's a whole different thing. I believe that's politics, and that's politics involved in that issue, and that should be separate. But overall, Christians is who we are and what we do, our actions at the end. And we and Jesus Christ and the court of the Lord will decide, were we Christians on this earth.
How do you separate those things? I mean, your ethical values are effectively your core, right? Like, that's your workable point of view and how you're figuring out, how do I maneuver within the context of the world? Okay, that's an equation. That equation takes in all sorts of things. What do I think about people? What do I think about what's right and wrong? What do I think about, et cetera? How do your Christian values get separate from that? Like, I don't know how a person separates their ethical, moral core from the actions to what they take in the larger world. Those things are intrinsically linked.
You have to question yourself in your actions all the time, even if they're good. That's how I do it. I try to question. I know what's written in the Bible. I know what's written in the Psalms. I know what's written and said, taught by the church from our Orthodox Christianity. And I question myself when I do things. Is it what the church wants, or this is not just the church, what God wants? Is it good or bad? And questioning all the time. That's normal. That's why we have brains, and that's why we're different from animals and anything else, because we can question ourselves and question ourselves again. If we even believe it's true and we're right, we would question ourselves twice, 3 times if needed. It's okay to be wrong.
Yes.
And that's how it's done. That's how my ethics are done, and how I do it. And maybe it's going to help
And I
somebody, but
accept that.
this is
I'm
how
just
this is
trying to
how I
point
do.
out, and I accept that. I'm just trying to point out that there is no way, in honest terms, to separate who a person is and what they believe from their actions in the larger world. The actions in the larger world, on some level, is the indication of what they actually believe and what they advocate
Yes,
for and the things that they say.
yes,
Like,
that's true.
people may take on a persona of, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew, I'm a whatever, but it's what they do that ultimately matters and tells. I guess that's my issue with people like Kirk. It's, I'm going to put this projection of Christianity out to the world, but the things that I say, the things that I do, are very different than that model of Christianity that I'm projecting out to the world. That's all. But again, I don't say that to say he should be shot. He shouldn't. That's like, it's an outrageous act to murder the guy. It just is. So I agree with you on
We're
that
all
point.
we're all sinners, as we say in our Orthodox. We're all sinners, and
Yeah.
if somebody's not, please throw a rock at me. So
Yeah. Right.
this is what it is. So
Yeah.
this is what we have to be, and we have to question ourselves every day. And I agree upon
No, I
this.
accept that.
That we have to be humans, and our actions show who we are.
I accept that. I do accept that, and I agree with you. He shouldn't have been killed. Obviously, he shouldn't have been killed. Um, and there have been some horrible points of view that have been uttered on social media. So yeah, I understand why you came in with that, making that strong statement of, this is outrageous that they murdered the guy. Agreed. Um, let's get to our topic. I am super curious about what is taking place inside Ukraine right now, and I don't know if you have contacts that are still there, but I am very curious about what, because we don't really see inside. We only see what's taking place on the outside, and we see people like Zelensky and those type of people making statements. But for example, the foreign minister, Dmitry Kuleba, who at one point said, we're going to be fighting Russia with shovels if we need to, fled the country, as he said, quote, like a thief in the night, unquote. And his rationale effectively boiled down to Zelensky was going to pass a law that was going to forbid any political figures from leaving the country. And he thought that he was going to get killed if he stayed in the country, which is pretty astonishing. And this is on the heels of, what's the guy? Paraba. No, I can never pronounce his name. Parabi, thank you.
Parabi.
The one that was killed by the grieving father, who effectively said he blames, if he could have got his hands on Poroshenko, he would have killed Poroshenko too. He blames him for the war and blames him for putting his kid into a press gang and sending his kid off to fight and die. And he hopes to be effectively traded for some Ukrainians in order to go and see if he can find his son's body in Russia. This seems like political chaos to me. And I'm wondering how much political chaos is there that is just being courted, that we are unaware of because we don't necessarily see it inside the country. Why did Quabela leave? Like, do you have any, because you've left also, and you left for the same reason, this idea of, I don't want to die. I'm taking an opposition to what this government is doing. I'm getting out. Quabela is saying something very similar.
I don't want to put myself in the line with Kuleba. He was the Minister of Foreign Affairs,
right,
the head diplomat when this war started. He was the head diplomat when Zelensky came to power, basically, and he could have negotiated peace. He chose to get a gold parachute and be a Harvard fellow, alumni fellow, whatever he got after all this, after he left his post. So that's why he has to travel abroad, as he said.
Mm-hmm.
I left because I was talking about peace from the beginning, for even years before this war ever started. And so there's a big difference. He could have stopped it. He could have resigned before, a day before, a week before this war or this conflict ever took place, and showed that something has to stop. But he stayed in his position, in his seat, until just recently, and provoked Russia with his statements, provoked this conflict to continue, pushed and propaganded war. As you said, we're going to go and fight with shovels the Russians if we need to, because we are so strong Ukrainians, etc. So I fled. I don't want to just because I'm good or bad. No, I fled because I was supporting the opposite side
Right.
of the situation. And long before this proxy war ever started, I was on the other side. I was with peace, that we have to negotiate. We should stop any conflict because Ukraine is going to be destroyed. It's going to be a battlefield. That's what my quotes were in 2020 and 2021, etc. So I've been talking about this for years before. So he
Right.
had to
You're saying
leave.
these are two different people. That's your point. It's like, I'm nothing like that
Yes,
guy. That's your
and
point.
not just nothing like that. We even had different positions. He could have stopped. He had the power in his hands to at least come out and say no when it all started. Like same with Aristovich. He was in power. He was the propaganda guy, basically the face of the Zelensky administration regime when this conflict started. He left only when they understood 3 months within the war that they cannot beat Russia. There's not going to be a toppling of the regime in Russia. The people will not stand up in Russia and topple the government, legally elected government by President Putin. So he fled. He understood that. He was smarter maybe than anybody else, or had more courage or whatever, but Aristovich
Yeah.
fled. But he also could have stopped it. The same with Kuleba. He had the hands. He could have resigned and said, no, people leave. There's going to be war. But he had his family leave, and all their families, the elites left. But the people in Ukraine did not know that there's going to be a war. They were
Right.
basically told everything's going to be okay. And then when the war started, the borders got closed, and everybody's right now being basically hijacked and using Ukrainians as a tool of manipulation and negotiations for more money and etc. So this is totally different. Kuleba then stated after he fled right now that he did not flee, that he's going to come back to Ukraine. So
Did he? He said he
nobody,
fled like a thief in the night.
yes, and then at the same time he came up with a post that he said he did not do that, that he's going to come back to Ukraine. So we're going to see what's going to happen with him. But from what I know, him, if he's going to come back or not, the situation in Ukraine, as I say, is a turning point in Ukraine, and it's been there for a long time. It's now continuing. The surrounding of Zelensky, Mindich, the oligarchs around him, are not in Ukraine right now. They have left Ukraine because their finances are outside of Ukraine, and they're not with Zelensky today. Shafir brothers, who were very close to Zelensky and were in his administration, and way basically the money, the money bag man guys for Zelensky's team, they have fled Ukraine. So you have to look at the more important people than Kuleba. Kuleba is just a guy within the team. He was there. He made a deal with the Americans, and he basically got a gold parachute ever since he left with a
Oh, so
job in
that's why
Harvard.
you think he left. He basically, I mean, he said he thought he was going to be killed.
He look in Ukraine. You can get killed any day, any time, if the regime wants you to get killed, or somebody from outside of Ukraine who coordinates the Azov battalions, the radicals, wants you to get killed. But for Parubi, I believe it's. I don't want to be conspiracy theorists, but I believe that the Poroshenko team were responsible for his killings. He knew too much
Really?
on the
What?
coup in Ukraine 2014. So I believe that there's a separate story to go into that. I believe that's what happened because Pro B was involved with the shooters, not because there was a photo, but Pro B was involved with coordinating the shooters and the radicals on Maidan during the coup
Right.
of 2014. He was the one who coordinated the basically when the explosive devices like the Molotov cocktails were made in the trade unions building,
Right.
and
Oh, that's
he coordinated all the bad stuff, together with Pashinsky, Turchinov, Avakov. I don't want to go into those names so people won't get crazy, but this is who I'm just naming the people who were involved, and he was working one of them. He was a low level guy, but he was with them. Those other guys are oligarchs now and living abroad also because of the help of the United States. But Barbie was also working closely with the Jamestown Foundation in Washington D.C. It's a former CIA think tank, which his people did internships there, and they came back to work for Power B when he was Speaker of the Parliament. So there's a connection to Power B on a separate level. That's why he got killed, and I do not believe that the guy that they took him as a killer, he's the
The
killer.
guy admitted
So
it,
I
though.
don't know.
I mean, he said he did it.
I will take you to a basement and do stuff, they're going to admit that you killed Kennedy. So I can tell you how they're being tortured in Ukrainian prisons, that they will admit to anything there. So this is why Kuleba is talking about this, because that's what's really happening in Ukraine. People are getting killed, people are getting tortured, people can admit to anything they want. Plus, Kuleba supported the Nabu, which is against Zelensky. It's a personal insult to Zelensky, and he was afraid for his life. That's why he left. So there's this whole with Kuleba. It's a different story. He's just a weak parasite that just got off the wagon before anybody else did, and was smarter than anybody else.
I want to play this other. Yeah. No, please finish.
No. That's what I want to say. Yeah.
So there should be a bombshell video, even though it hasn't necessarily been making the rounds in U.S. media. I want to play it for you, and I want to get your take. They are in the video making the argument that Lindsey Graham was being paid off.
I saw that video. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is Sirski. Listen to what he says here. I mean, you can translate to make sure that the translation is correct first, foremost, but also give me your take on this. I mean, did you experience this? Did you see this when you were there?
I saw this video.
Договоренность была на другие объемы совершенно, как так получилось? Теперь что дали, далеко мы не уйдем, а они же хотят, чтобы постерешь. Слушай, насколько я знаю, Ренат все перевел, как договаривались, объемы меня тоже расстроили. Гром обещал, что все порешается, с хозяином вроде на короткой ноге теперь. У меня еще свой вопрос в Штатах был, он деньги взял и теперь морозится, наверное, цену себе набивает, пока доступ к телу есть. Может, его доля не устраивает? Или он реально не может решить? Взял больше на этот раз, вопрос не решил. И вообще в последнее время начал. Надо другие варианты.
So, just to be clear, he is effectively saying, and I believe this is Sirski, is effectively saying Lindsey Graham got his share, took more, didn't deliver in what he said he was going to deliver, apparently weapons or whatever, and that Graham has been taking more than I guess he typically have taken. I mean, is the bribery this over?
Yes, I can tell you. I don't want to comment on the video itself. I have a lot of questions to it, like overall, knowing Yermak. That's Yermak and Sersky, so you have to understand that what they're trying to portray. So I don't know if the video is real or not. That's for the experts to decide. But knowing the information that's in the video, and I know what's happening on the ground in Washington and in Kiev, that's what they're talking about is true. A lot of, not just the Graham, but a lot of other ones are on the payroll through lobbyists, and millions of dollars are getting paid. Right now, a lot of it's in cryptocurrency, so you cannot even track it, are being paid to U.S. government officials to push this from the Ukrainian side, from the Kiev regime perspective, this war to continue for these guys to stay in power. Plus, the U.S. politicians, congressmen, senators, and other government officials are getting paid by the military-industrial complex. So they're getting a paycheck from both ends on this matter, and that's why they're so glorifying this war, because they're getting rich on this while people are dying. And as I said, I don't want to comment again on the video itself. The context of it is real. What is happening on the ground is real. Akhmetov is paying for this also. Akhmetov, I want to remind everybody, we've been talking about this for years now. He's been switched and is working for the MI6. The guy killed people in Donbass while he was a gangster in his times in the 90s. And he killed dozens of people. He has a huge mansion and an apartment in the center of London, in the same building where Zelensky has his apartment in London. That's where they're neighbors, Akhmetov and Zelensky in London. Plus, Akhmetov has a lot of stuff around Europe, and he has no problem going to these countries because he's working for the MI6. He sold off, and basically sold off the people of Donbass and went the other way and was financing the Azov battalions, the radicals, separately from the CIA, also trying to get a power point in the situation, because anybody who controls these radicals, they can use them to make money or drain other businesses or attack other businesses and take everything they want from them. So that's separate. But what they're talking about, Lindsey Graham, I know that he's on a payroll. I know that other people in the U.S. government are on a payroll to continue to push this war, and that they're on a payroll not just from the Kiev regime, which is paying them millions of dollars. And I can tell you more than even Hunter Biden made. And at the same time, they're getting paid from the U.S. military-industrial complex on official lobby business. So this is what we're seeing today. And unfortunately, the situation is that politics is money, and where there's money and politics, there's blood and war. And right now, that is what's happening. And I know that for a fact that right now the military in Ukraine is it's not equipped fully, because they don't have the money. The money was given to the Kiev regime, it's stolen. It was stolen from the beginning. Now they're getting less, and they're stealing most of it. They're stealing it into their own pockets. They're dividing that money. It's coming back to the people who coordinate that in the U.S. So everybody's is getting involved in this, and everybody's getting paid. But the people and even the politicians who started this from Kuleba in Ukraine understand that Ukraine is done. Even the people within the Azov battalions understand Ukraine is done. They're selling out their goods, their apartments, because they need to leave the country. They understand the Ukraine today that we're seeing and we saw for the last 30 years, it failed in its independence, because it's not just because of the corruption, which is great in the Ukraine. It's one of the most corrupt countries in the world, my own country. That's what it's involved. You could get off to close a criminal case within the prosecutor's office. In 2016, if it's political, $5 million. Not political, $1 million cash. You close a criminal case. That's what the price of it's worth. And there's corruption everywhere. But the problem is the corruption in Ukraine led to basically to selling off to Western deep state, the British deep state, the European deep state, the American deep state, the elites in Ukraine, and they sold off the country. Not to the Russians or to anybody else, because even though Russia's close, everybody's saying it's bad to have pro-Russian politicians, but it was natural and it was historic. It was always there. We were one country before. Why can we have pro-Russian politicians in our politics? But we had pro-American politicians 10,000 kilometers away within our politics, and nobody asked why.
Yeah,
because it was all sold off. Because their money is in Swiss banks, German banks, French banks, British banks, American banks, and they want to keep it. Poroshenko wants to keep his money. Zelensky wants to keep his money. Yermak wants to keep his money, and they want to buy. They want to own the West so they can continue working with them. Because that's, how Zelensky's. He thinks it's like a movie for him. He's being treated as God in this situation, and he's making money on this, billions of dollars. So this is what it is, unfortunately. And a lot of people in Ukraine and elites who are not even part of it and understand that what is happening, it's done. So a lot of people in Ukraine, regular people, they say, we don't care which flag is going to fly over Kiev tomorrow. We want to live a normal life.
yeah.
We want to get our life back. We want to live. We don't want war. We want this to stop. We lost. We didn't win. We understand that the propaganda got to us, and we just want to get our lives back. We understand we got that's what people are saying for me on the phone. I'm talking to a lot of different folks, and
basically, we want this over with. Yeah.
Yes, we said we don't want to care what flag flies over us. Ukraine, we lived good under Soviet Union. Why the hell did we choose this path? It led to nothing. We basically failed our independence. That's what the reality is, and it's my conclusion also.
I just want to be very clear, though. You're saying that there are various American political figures that when money goes to Ukraine, somehow they're getting a kickback from the money that is going into Ukraine, like they are themselves being paid off.
Yes. They're the ones. Zelensky's getting a percentage of it, but they're the ones who are basically the ones who are pushing for the financing of Ukraine right now. They're the ones who are getting the kickback, the big kickback from cashback from all this, and it's basically it's around 40%. I can tell you that from the amount that's being sent.
Somebody else
Can you
made this
imagine?
argument.
That's the reality. 40% has been stolen.
Larry Johnson is a political figure here in the States. He used to be in the
Yeah,
military.
he wrote an article about me a couple of years ago. I know Larry. He's a good guy.
Yeah, he made the same argument that effectively Lindsey Graham is being paid off, and if they look at him too hard, they'll be able to effectively find the corruption and the kickbacks that he's getting, which is part of the reason why he was so aggressive and pushing for the war and continuing the war as it stands.
Yes, nobody for free was going to do that. I can tell you. Nobody sane would just go around push for. Maybe some crazy people under propaganda, yes, but nobody, even Parubey, the neo-Nazi who got killed, shot in Kiev, in Lviv, he was there for the money. He was nobody before. He was like a local politician within. He got pushed by the diaspora and the outside from the United States to get a position. I know I got calls from the diaspora, the Ukrainians in the U.S. who fled from under the Nazi regime, who worked with the Nazis and fled to the U.S. They pushed for Parubey to come to politics, and but I can tell you that people who are sane and they're nobody going to do this for free, and that's why they're pushing this war. They're making money on this. That they lost the possibility of overthrowing Russia within the first 3 months. That's why our storage left, and then now they're just we're going to make money on this. We're going to stay in power. The same with Europe. As soon as they stop this war, the European elites will have to tell their people why the hell we got involved in this war from the beginning. Our economies are destroyed. So that's why, and they're making money on this on the side from what they're being financing, and plus they're staying in power. So it's a win-win situation for every one of them. That's why they need to continue this war. That's why so many people around President Trump are pushing them, even though his own position and his surrounding is against this war. They're pushing him to look the other way and look, oh, Russia's bombing Kiev. Well, look, everybody's ignoring the last 3-4 days before that when the Kiev regime was bombing the energy infrastructure in Russia, or bombing cities in Crimea, or basically terrorizing airports, and have basically people being terrorized and cannot leave for a couple of days because the drones are flying all over the place. Everybody's quiet about that, but no, Kiev and some drones flew into Poland. That's what the reaction. So we can see that it's being fed one-sided story only to the president of the United States, even though he wants to make peace, he wants to stop this. And if he saw the picture in both ways, it would be a different situation. And he needs to see the full picture to stop this. He needs to see who Ukrainians, these people in the Kiev regime are. He needs to see what real Ukrainians want to talk about, not what General Kellogg is telling him, who's also involved in this war, and his daughter is making money on this war from the beginning, from day one. But people who are on the ground really want peace, and are saying what really is going on in Ukraine today, what the people in Ukraine want, not in Lvov or Nazi groups that are being financed by outside, but the regular people who never traveled to Egypt or to Turkey for vacation only a couple of times in their lifetime, and are staying and living in Kiev or the cities in Ukraine today. Go to the villages around Kiev or in central Ukraine. There's no men in villages. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Do you believe that those people want war and they believe they can win Russia? No. They want to stop the hell of this and finish this. And that's what Russia's saying. Stop this. Let's go in the terms that we started from the beginning, because we cannot just stop this and have this cancer growing with Zelensky and the Nazis and the CIA and Kiev running around doing shit against us. We have to clean this up, cut the tumor out, and then we can start again as a healthy body, try to live it. That's what they're being talking about, and nobody's listening.
Andrii, I'm listening, and yeah, I agree with you, man. Andrii Telizhenko, he is a Ukrainian whistleblower, former diplomat, and a good friend of the show. Thank you, Andrii. You be safe, okay?
Thank you, Jamal. Be safe. God bless to you all.
Have a good one, man. Thank you. All right, Andrii is a fantastic